So welcome to the 9th installment of Introducing, and today we'll be introducing DRX, a team that I'm sure some of you are pretty familiar with already, as they have been to a lot of the international tournaments at this point. They are from Korea, of course, and they are the Korean champions, and they're in Masters 1. They managed to finish in that 5th or 6th position. Their expectation for them that I have is a dark horse winner. I think for pretty much every single tournament they've been in, you could say that the expectation was a dark horse winner, because we all know that this team has a lot of potential. At times, this team can look insanely good, like just unbeatably good at times, but then at other times they let you down. Like, this has kind of been the story of DRX throughout their entire history in Valorant, is just this team where everyone thinks, oh, they could do it this time, you know, maybe this is their time, but then they always just seem to fall a little bit short when the actual tournament comes around. Now, DRX's style is kind of a setup and execute heavy style. Some of their executes are extremely strong, like extremely good, as we'll see in some of the clips, and their utility usage is insane at times as well. They are very, very strong at that when everything is clicking in that sense. And the question I have for them at the bottom is, can they do it this time? Because that is always the question with DRX. The expectation is maybe there. Maybe there is a bit of pressure as well to eventually try and, you know, finish higher than kind of 5th, 6th, 4th, maybe, you know, to try and like break into the top 3, maybe even get to the grand final, maybe even win it potentially as well. I think all of those things would be nice for DRX to do, and we'll have to see if they can. In terms of their members, we have Zest, who is the IGL, who plays a lot of initiators, some Brim and some Sage, as you can see. We got Stax, who is, you know, regularly considered one of the best initiator players in the world. We have Buzz, who's kind of mostly a chamber player, but will sometimes play Killjoy as well on some maps. We have RB, who's kind of the primary duelist, or a KO player if they are playing a no duelist, which, you know, they were kind of the inventors of, although they have leaned away from it a bit more recently. And then Mako is their controller player, and Termi is the coach. You can see that all of their stats are insane. I mean, DRX in Korea are just way, way better than anyone else. They didn't drop a single map, as we'll see a bit later on. And so, yeah, the stats are just insane. I mean, some of the cast numbers, like Mako's 82% cast. So a cast basically is a kill, assist, survive, or trade. It essentially means in a round where you don't get that, you've been a bit of a detriment to your team. You haven't got a kill, you haven't got an assist, you haven't survived, and your kill and your death wasn't traded either by your team. Basically means that your team, you know, you just lost a player and nothing else happened. So, you know, that means only in 18% of rounds that's happening for Mako, which is an extremely high number. I think that's the highest I've seen so far of anyone in this tournament. And yeah, I mean, they're all insanely high numbers for pretty much everyone across the board, as you can see. Now let's come to the clips, and we'll take a look at the grand final that they played against Maru in Korea. And, well, the first thing that I want to note is that they were very, very fast in general, DRX, in this entire series, really. And they played a very heavy execute style. As you can see, they're just grouped up as a 5 here, and this is a lot of what they did in this final. Now, I'm not sure that this will carry on over to Copenhagen, but, you know, I think they just felt comfortable that they could win this game doing this. So they send the Fade Haunt past this one way, then they're going to send in an Oma Flash there, as you can see as well. Send RB on the Neon in behind it, in comes a Prowler as well. And they push Maru off early on. Then we get this Fade Ult, as you can see, coming down here as well. And so they Fade Ult in. Actually, RB is going to die here to just spam through that smoke. But because of the ult, we get this Season here as well, which catches 2 players. And you'll see that Buzz is able to just come around that corner and find 2 kills. Obviously, they can't hear anything or anything like that. And that continues as this Omen still can't hear anything either. And so Buzz gets another kill as well. We end up in this 3v2. Mako's going to come swinging there. They're going to get the sight. They're going to get the spike down. And they find the last kill as well. Very well played. You start to see some of the utility combos that they have. And in this game, it worked very well. And now let me quickly show you round 11, because sometimes their utility is insanely good, as you will see here, when it all works very well, and it works very well more often than not. So it starts off with this, right, where they get the breach stun down here. You can see that would have stunned this early push, but Buzz is already waiting for it as well, and he manages to get the first kill. And in they start to come, right? So they send in the Neon wall there. They expect that someone might be here, so they send in the breach ult as well. In comes the Neon, in comes a Fade Haunt, in comes the Omen flash you might have just seen there as well. In comes a Seize as well. So this breach has been hit by a Breachel, been revealed by the Fade Haunt, hit by the Omen flash, hit by the Fade Seize, and RB is coming around this corner to kill this breach just at the moment that Seize is landing, and he's been flashed and he's still stunned. And so this is what I mean, right? 3 people get the assist. RB gets an absolutely free kill. When the utility works, when it looks like this, and it looks like this more often than I think any other team in the world, where the utility is just literally perfect, right? Everything is timed perfectly. When that happens, DRX look insane. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen all the time, but I just wanted to show you that kill. This round, I think, actually ends up being a save from the side of Maru. But this is the kind of level that they can reach. This is the kind of level of utility where it's just like literally unplayable, where that breach literally didn't play the game, right? Because he's just been hit by so much utility, he isn't even playing the game, and it will be a save from Maru in this round. And in general, DRX will play best when they have a solid plan in place. They're kind of the anti-Paper Rex, you know, who love to play in chaos and in chaotic moments. DRX are kind of the opposite, where they like everything to be structured and have a plan and know exactly what they're doing. And we'll see that here in round 20 against Maru on Haven this time, where they are on the defensive side, right? So Maru have kind of started with a bit of a defaulty look. They've kind of pushed them back in mid. They've kind of started some pressure towards Garage, as you can see. But then they're actually going to group up and come back towards A instead. And so RB here, he eventually is going to retreat off this angle as he sees that there are people here. So he's going to get flashed here by the breach. They're going to come in. They send in the jet updraft there with the knives. They're going to flash this box as well, and RB just retreats. And the reason he just retreats is because they have the breach ult ready, as you can see. And so they come up with a really nice idea, right? That, okay, we're just going to stay here. There isn't much time left. We're going to wait for them to get in onto site. Then we're going to pop the breach ult as soon as we think they're on site. So they hear that jet dash, and then it's go time, right? And you've got 2 players, RB and the Sova here, just ready and waiting to go in off the breach ult straight away, right? Don't even let them get the spike down. Just breach ult in. RB is going to dash in as well. Flash comes in behind him, and they get the first kill. Really, really nice. Now Maru, with like no time left, have to try and come in through the smokes onto the site. They run into them. Zest manages to get one there as well. They start getting these kills. Stack starts just going crazy, and they manage to win the round. And anytime they have this kind of plan set up that they think can work, that is when you are in a lot of trouble. But now let's come to round 3 of Ascent, and this was actually part of the clips at the start, but I just need to show this round because it's just so cool, and you'll see what I mean when it happens. But yeah, this is actually the bonus round for DRX on the attacking side here, and again, they are just going to group up and go, send a Prowler in, all of that stuff. But this, I think, is the thing that has been missing in international tournaments in their past, is that, yes, their team play, as we've seen in some of the clips, is extremely good, but sometimes they're kind of individual level. You know, when you just need someone to pop off, that isn't there. As you'll see, they just enter in onto the site, right? They actually do manage to get the first kill, but it's not going to go great from there. Buzz picks up a Phantom, which will be important, but you know, other than that, it pretty much goes terribly for them. They start dying here with the worst guns. We end up in a 4v1. But Buzz is able to get 1, and then he finds a second as well. So we're in a 4v2, but the spike is still down on the site, and both players are on the B site. He's down on low HP. You would think that this would be pretty much unwinnable at this point. But he's going to manage to do it. And this is something that, again, I think if DRX can have this, if they can have their players win these 2v1s at the international level, then that is something that can really carry them, right? Because Buzz finds a random kill there. But now I want to think about what would you do in this situation if you were Buzz here? You're in a 1v1, you're down on 28 HP, there's still, you know, quite a bit of time left. You've got time on your side, but the spike is still down on the site. You know where the Omen is, well, or at least he's on the site, right? So what are you going to do to try and get that spike back? Well, Buzz has a great idea here, just an absolute giga brain idea here, because he's going to run away. And he's going to run away because he wants to get the ult off, because he's won off his ult. So he just runs away, puts down the ult, and now the Omen has to move away from sight. So he suspects that, and he just wins the fight there, swinging onto that Omen, and manages to get the ace and the win. And then finally, let's take a look at round number 4 here on Haven, because again, I think that this is something that they just have not had at this international level, because again, we're just going to see something pretty insane happen overall, right? Because what's going to happen is that they are on the attacking side here. They're just going to group up. They're going to go towards A eventually, but Maru are going to have a bit of an idea to disrupt that, because you could see that they have pushed down mid, and they've managed to find the first kill. And it's not going to go great here from DRX from this point out, because we're going to get a flank coming out from the Raze here as well. We get this kill from the Jet. The Raze ults, they get that kill. We end up in a 2v5, and they don't even have the spike down, and they know where they are, right? You would think that this would be a pretty much unwinnable situation, and it would a lot of the time, but they're just gonna go mental, right? So Chabab maybe like peaks slightly before that flash, but the timing is very close. But Stax manages to find that shot. Whilst that's gone on, RB is just pushing this chamber here and manages to kill the chamber as well. We end up in a 2v3. Still pretty difficult to win. RB then comes swinging back around here and has killed someone towards short. Then Stax swings around, headshot straight away, and then also picks off the Omen as well. This was a 2v5, and both of them lived, and they managed to find all 5 kills, and they didn't even have the spike down at the time either. Insanely impressive shooting there. Again, this is obviously against worse competition than they'll be up against in the international level, but if they can do even, you know, close to this kind of thing, then that I think will be the difference for them of whether they finish again in kind of that 5th, 6th position, or whether they can go a lot further. When it comes to their maps, there really isn't too much to talk about, because, well, alongside Loud, they are the second team who didn't drop a map in their entire qualification process, as you can see. And so, yeah, they're banning Icebox. That's pretty much all you might know about them. But other than that, they're just winning every map. I mean, you could look at some of, like, the percentages of the rounds and maybe take something away from that. But honestly, I think it's pretty difficult to really tell. In general, you know, Haven has always been kind of a place where DRX have really thrived. Split has always been a bit weaker for them, in general, but you know, as you can see, they're still doing pretty well on it here. Their breeze is quite interesting. Their attack is so high, but their defense is pretty low. But we'll just have to see, honestly, of where it goes, because obviously against worse competition, it's pretty hard to tell which will be their best maps. When it comes to their agents that they like, you can see that for most of the controllers, the 3 dome smokers, it's not too different from the overall average compared to all of the VCT teams, aside from Viper being a lot less than average. Now, obviously, not playing Icebox will factor into that, but again, they aren't really supplementing that by picking Viper on maps like Bind or Split either. They are still, you know, a pretty big fan of Chamber, but also they play a bit of Killjoy as well. Not too much Sage. Again, obviously not playing Icebox. That probably comes into that a bit. And then when it comes to Duelist, this is quite interesting, because they tend to not play Duelist as much as other teams. Obviously, they were the kind of inventor of the no Duelist triple initiator comp on Ascent. They then also tried that on Breeze as well with no Duelist. They have, as I mentioned, actually gone away from that themselves and started reintroducing the Duelist into those comps again. So when we look at the overall pick rates, it is a bit lower for the Duelist in general, aside from Neon, which they seem to like quite a bit. Quite a few teams have been liking the Neon. But then when obviously all of the Initiators actually have quite a high pick rate, because they're playing a lot of Initiators, right? So obviously you see Breach, Stax' Breach, probably the best Breach in the world. And then obviously a lot of Fade, KO, Sky, even Sky, who's a bit below average, is still not too far away, and then quite a bit of Sova as well. When it comes to their pistol and eco rounds, I think this is probably the most impressive that we've seen so far. Winning nearly 70% of pistol rounds is pretty insane. Obviously, again, it is against weaker competition, or at least competition that they are a lot better than. So you know, we'll have to see how that goes in Copenhagen. But even, you know, on ecos, again, winning more than 50% of their eco rounds is, again, pretty insane. And against ecos and semi-ecos as well, only losing 18% of those rounds. So yeah, they're just doing insanely well right now on the whole. And so that is DRX. The big question coming into this tournament will certainly be, can they manage to kind of really live up to expectation this time and go deep in a tournament at the international level? I think it would be very good if they could. For the whole Korean scene, to be honest, it would be nice to know that this team could finally live up to its potential, but we'll just have to see.